Hey, it's Blakey Dota, and today we're talking about the top 10 mechanics that have gone away in Dota 2. These are mechanics that Valve added that have no business being in the modern 2 Dota game and have thankfully, for the most part, been removed. Quick disclaimer, these are just going to be Dota 2 mechanics, as I did not play Dota 1, so there's going to be no denying from full and no just right-clicking your allies, which from what I've heard was ridiculous. These are in no particular order, although I did make sure that number 1 is probably the most obscure one of them all. If you remember all 10 of these mechanics, congratulations, you're a Dota historian, Unk. So if you enjoyed this list, make sure to like and subscribe. This is my first video here on YouTube, so I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the list. Number 10 is probably the newest removed one on this list, and that is Bottle Crowing, which was removed in the Wandering Waters patch of 7.38. Back in the day, which honestly really wasn't that long ago, Miz would use the courier to send their bottle back to base in order to refill it instantly. Or, more commonly, if your support would die in a lane, or sometimes just if your mid was getting destroyed, you would be forced to TP in, your mid would hand you the bottle, and then they would refill it. The worst part about this entire system is that if you were a support and you didn't help your mid, you would just be absolutely flamed by some Tinker or some Ember Spirit mid that just hated your guts. So back in the day, it was kind of more of not a who's a better mid matchup. It was kind of just which team had the better supports to sacrifice themselves to the mid gods. In patch 7.38, they didn't technically get rid of specifically Bottle Crowing, but the lingering fountain effect does not let you fill bottle anymore, which is what allowed supports to fill mid bottles. Additionally, you have to be in the fountain now in order to get the bottle refilling. Valve finally removed this stupid mechanic, and honestly, thank God. At number 9 is a little bit older now. It is the removal of the side shop. Back in the day, there used to be 3 shops in Dota: the secret shop, your fountain base, and of course now the side shop. The side shop allowed you to grab stuff like boots, ring of health, Helm Dom. I think you could even buy random stuff like Blink Dagger and Ultimate Orb. It didn't really make a lot of sense, really. We'll get into why this removal made sense, but when it was initially removed, everyone had no idea what to do. Everyone used the side shop. People miss being able to buy Ring of Health 3 steps away from the creep wave. It was awesome. For those who remember it, you miss it. For those who never play with it, you don't miss it, I guess. At number 8 was the original Tome of Knowledge. Tome of Knowledge was an item that would spawn at 10 minutes in just the regular shop, and its intention was to give your support the levels it needed in order to receive its ulti. Similar to how now we have Wisdom Shrines, which is really wild. This would spawn at 10 minutes. That's like late into the laning phase. Can you imagine if there was a Wisdom Rune fight at 10 minutes? It's crazy back then how ridiculous Dota was. That was the intent of the item though, was to give it to your support. However, since it was just a regular shop in the item, anyone could buy it. I remember countless games of supports not getting it and complaining, or mid laners stealing it, carries stealing it, off laners stealing it. Everyone would try to take this dang thing at minute 10 and take it away from their supports. Tomes of Knowledge were a broken system, and they were eventually replaced by Wisdom Runes, and nowadays we have Wisdom Shrines, which is a much better approach to the game and definitely helps supports a lot more. Also, side note, I love Wisdom Shrines. I think it's great to have a nice early game objective, just having a little battle at 7 minutes, unless your mid is AFK, then it sucks. Number 7 are map shrines. These were basically just like little structures that were fountain regen that you could use at any point in the game. There were multiple of these scattered around the map, and the most commonly used ones were ones used by the mid laner in the jungle, and the horrendous idea of having multiple of these in your high ground defense. If you think pushing high ground now is impossible, you should have been playing Dota when this thing existed. It was a horrible time for everybody involved. The way it would work is a high ground fight would start, and then someone on the enemy team would activate this dang shrine, and in the middle of the fight, your enemy team would heal from like half HP to full HP, and it made pushing high ground genuinely impossible. Shrines dragged games out, made them last way longer than they need to be, and honestly, thank God they were removed because they were toxic for the state of the game. Number 6 are old game modes that are just no longer in Dota 2. In this entry, I'm specifically talking about all random deathmatch and the easier access to captain's mode, which is no longer one of the default options in Dota 2. While none of these game modes were super popular, they were kind of fun to mess around with. All random was exactly as it sounds. You just get random heroes, and whatever you get, you have to deal with. You could get 5 in supports, you could get 5 agi carries, you could get 5 piece of crap heroes that have no synergy. It did not matter. It was a wild west of a game mode. Similarly with ARDM, no one even remembers this game mode, but you would spawn as a random hero, and instead of it mattering about kills and killing objectives, you just had a certain amount of lives, and you would spawn as a new hero every single time you died. So one life you could be like a Mirana, and then the next life you could be like a Earthshaker. It made no sense, and it was this really stupid game mode. Now, in order to combat the fact that you were a different hero every single life, I believe it let you sell your items at 90% of its value, kind of similar to Doom's Devil's Bargain. And that made it so that you could sell items and buy new ones every single life, so that you weren't completely screwed. And finally is Captain's Mode, which unfortunately has been removed. I enjoyed Captain's Mode, and now we have Immortal Draft. Immortal Draft sucks, by the way. And as much as I enjoyed it, it makes sense why it was removed. No one was playing Captain's Mode. It just casually in pubs. It was not a great time. Honestly, as much as I like Captain's Mode, it makes sense for it to go away. No one was properly drafting in Captain's Mode. If you got it in a pub, it was stupid. That being said, Captain's Mode is still the way that competitive Dota is played today, so maybe they should bring it back. I don't know. I think it was fun. At number 5, I have Respawn Talents. Respawn Talents were basically just talents that mostly support heroes had, and it would reduce your respawn cooldown by 15 seconds, 30 seconds. I think there was one that would reduce it by 1 minute. As you can imagine, this was extremely broken. Think of Undyne's innate ability where he respawns once every 5 minutes, immediately. Think of every support hero essentially having that. You could literally die in a fight, respawn, grab a smoke, get back to the fight, reuse your ulti, and it wouldn't have mattered that you died in the first place. It didn't make dying a penalty. Thankfully, Valve realized that these were too stupid to be in the game, and they removed them. Also, shout out to gold per minute talents. Those ones will be missed, although technically they're still in the game. Neutral item enchantments allow you to gain gold per minute. So, that one's still in the game, but I still missed the gold per minute talents. I think Puck had one that was 420 gold per minute level 25, which was just stupid. What were we doing back in the day? Kind of miss it. Number 4 is the biggest one in this entire list in terms of sheer volume. It is general item changes, general mechanic changes to the item system, whatever you want to name it. This is a big one. Here is a modern day item inventory. It has 6 slots, 3 backpack slots, a neutral item slot, and a teleportation scroll slot. It's clean, easy to manipulate and maneuver items, and there's no excuse for not having the TP. Now, on the other hand, here's an actual inventory screenshot from the International 3.
What? What the fuck?
And if you don't think that was bad enough, here's one from International 1.
My eyes! My eyes!
Old Dota 2 players will remember the struggle it was to only have 6 item slots. I mean, think about it. Sentries and Observers were separate item slots, no dedicated TP slot, no dedicated backpack, no dedicated neutral item, although neutral items didn't exist yet, so that one doesn't matter too much. If you were a support back in the day, you would have a slot for Observers, a slot for Dust, a slot for Sentries, a slot for a TP scroll, and then Boots. And that was it. I remember when neutral items were existed, it would just be like an RNG race in the jungle, who could get what. So anyways, thank God we have a backpack. Thank God Observers and Sentries are now just 1 slot. And thank God they removed some other stupid stuff. Does anyone remember when heroes would jungle and use Tranquil Boots and then drop them, and then a bounty hunter would go and steal them, or Nature's Prophet would snipe it? That, thank God, is gone. Or when Blink Dagger used to cost mana back in the day. Honestly, I can make an entire video just on item changes throughout Dota 2's history, because there are countless items that have been removed, reworked, or just redone. So if you want to see that video, make sure to subscribe and let me know down below. Number 3 was the fact that we used to play with 1 courier. First and foremost, your support would have to buy the courier. And then once again, I think at like 5 minutes, they have to spend more money to get the upgraded courier. Everyone, and I mean everybody, would fight over this courier. Your mid laner would typically have the highest urgency to get it because they would want their early bottle, or in some cases, going back to the point earlier, they would use the team's only courier to just refill its bottle. If you were a support, you were lucky to ever get the courier. And I mean ever. In 7.23, they finally just had enough with it and added 5 couriers. Everyone gets their own courier. And honestly, I cannot imagine going back to playing with just one courier. I think it would be impossible. It would not fit in the regular, normal Dota 2 life right now. I could not do it. Can you imagine the amount of flaming people would get in nowadays? Number 2 is the most complicated, I swear, mechanic that they ever removed or added, and that is unique attack modifiers. For those who played Dota 2 when unique attack modifiers existed, you probably just shuddered. And for those who didn't play it, well, let me tell you what they were. Unique attack modifiers referred to items and abilities that would affect your right clicks. So think of Desolator, Satanic, Lifesteal in general, Scotty, and Mjolnir. And even Diffusal Blade was considered a unique attack modifier. Except back in the day, they didn't work together, like at all. Scotty would cancel Deso. Deso would cancel Lifesteal. Nothing worked with Diffusal Blade, but then Maelstrom would work with everything. When it procced, you genuinely would need a PhD or a flowchart in order to figure out which attack modifier worked with what. Here's the one I found on Reddit. Try to make sense of this thing. Scotty would cancel Deso. Dancel would cancel Lifesteal, but then Maelstrom would work with everything, but then Diffusal worked with nothing. Patch 7.0 eventually just got rid of unique attack modifiers in general and freed players to just build items that make sense. In fact, it's kind of funny to think about. Venomancer with Septic Shock actually kind of just wants to have as many unique attack modifiers as possible, or debuffs, I guess, in this case. Its Septic Shock ability gives it more base damage based on how many debuffs the enemy has. Which is why there's been so many Mage Slayer, Scotties, Desolator, just stupid Venomancer builds going on. But it makes sense, and this build would be impossible back in the day because nothing worked. Thank God they got rid of this. Carry players can rejoice. Before we get to number 1, I have one honorable mention, and that is the removal of the item Stout Shield. If you played during this time, you would know that this was a mandatory laning item. Stout Shield would give melee heroes a 50% chance to block 20 damage, and it would block 90 damage for ranged heroes. And this was a mandatory laning item on many melee heroes. It would build into items like Vanguard and Poor Man's Shield, the latter of which was super OP. Although, oddly enough, it wouldn't work on like Kraken Shell on Tidehunter. In fact, I remember being flamed for playing Tidehunter and buying a Stout Shield. It just didn't work because it had its own unique characteristics. Nowadays, every single melee hero has innate Stout Shield built into it, and we say goodbye to Stout Shield in 7.23. Goodbye, you will be missed, but not Poor Man's Shield. And number 1 is the most obscure, stupid, random, dumb mechanic they have ever added to Dota 2. I am, of course, talking about number 1, elemental damage. Yeah, I didn't remember it either. This mechanic was so obscure that it only affected one Dota 2 hero, Brewmaster. And not only just Brewmaster, but one ability, which was the old version of Cinder Brew. Back in the day, Cinder Brew used to slow heroes and give them a percentage chance to attack themselves. This effect would only last about 5 seconds, unless it was hit by a fire-based ability. What? Huh? Here is the full list of abilities that would extend Cinder Brew's effect. And while they all fit thematically for being a fiery ability, except for maybe Battle Hunger, this was some crazy level of synergy. Additionally, the only way for Brewmaster himself to extend Cinder Brew and have a fire-based ability was to ulti, and his Fire Panda's passive, Immolation, would activate it. It was a weird time. It confused players, it wasn't explained, it was never built off of, and honestly, I think 90% of people just forgot about its existence for like 3 weeks or however long this thing was in the game for. This was a mechanic that I thought didn't actually happen. I thought I dreamt this thing because of how short-lived it was, and honestly, thank God they got rid of it. And that wraps up the list. If you enjoyed learning about some of Dota 2's old mechanics, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And if you remembered all 10 of them, like I said earlier, you're a Dota 2 historian. If you learned something new, enjoyed the video, or have any other video ideas, just let me know down below and I'll make sure I'll get back to them as soon as I can. I'm Stakey Dota, and thank you for watching. Stupid ability. Oh God. Oh, yeah.